Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in and joining us today. I'm Wing-Sie Chan, I'm the Head of Programs at AN Artists Information Company, and I'm based in London. We have two offices, one is in Newcastle and the other is here in London. Prior to joining AN, I worked at the Visual Arts team at Arts Council England in the London office. And I've also had experience in exhibitions related roles at Alan Christea Gallery and Parasol Unit Foundation for Contemporary Art. So I'm sharing some of my advice through my experience of working at both private companies and public organisations, as well as from a public funding perspective. So just a little bit about AN. Which I'm sure you're all very much familiar with, but it's nice to kind of recap on who we are and where we are at as an organisation. So Artist Newsletter was set up by a group of artists based in Sunderland, and artists helping artists and artist-led programmes were, or still are, very much part of the DNA of AN. And at the heart of the organisation was a simple mission to support the visual artist by providing practical information and a means of raising issues that are significant to artists. So we have, since September 2020, we've been celebrating our 40-year anniversary, and we've grown from a grassroots 500 copy a month newsletter to a magazine, and then to an online platform. And now we're a full professional artists association focusing on members' needs by campaigning for and supporting visual artists. And as part of our work as an organisation and our offer to our members is we've started to develop a series of sessions called Artist Drop-ins as a relatively new strand of our programme. And we deliver one of these sessions more or less once a month. And these are designed to provide practical advice on fundamental skills for artists to help them develop their practice. So today's session will focus on applying to our Artists Bursaries 2021 Time, Space, Money programme. So obviously it's been a very challenging time in the last 18 months due to the pandemic, and last year we offered two different hardship bursary funds, and this year we're kind of returning to our original bursary model and continuing to offer bursaries of between £500 to £1,500 to support professional development, but still continuing to acknowledge the fact that it still remains a very challenging time for artists. So the bursaries do also continue to support an element of alleviating financial pressures that may have arisen through the ongoing impact of COVID-19. So I'll just talk through a little bit about the application process to start with. So the programme is open to current AN artist members and joint members, so members who are both artists and arts organisers. And those members are able to make one application to the fund. And as I mentioned before, it's the bursaries are awarded an amount of between £500 to £1,500. And the fund opened on Monday last week, on Monday the 13th of September. And it's to support any activities that are taking place between the 1st of February next year, right through to the 31st of December 2022. So we do kind of advise that you allow sufficient time between the funding decision and the end of the project start date. Because in terms of the application timeline, The applications will close on at 12 noon on the 14th of October. So there's about a month to apply. It's been about a week already. Decisions will be made in January 2022, and we'll notify all applicants at that point of our decisions. You will be eligible to make an application if you've previously received a bursary from AN, but obviously you would have to demonstrate in your application that you've made progress in your professional development, and you must propose activities that are distinct from previous applications. So do bear that in mind. So I mentioned that artist members or joint members are eligible to apply to the programme, and it's open to visual artists practicing at any stage of their career, but although there are a couple of restrictions which I'll run through later. And you will have to have a UK bank account and be based in the UK as well. So some of the restrictions on applications, so we're not receiving applications from arts organiser members or student members, and particularly students who are in education, whether it's further or higher education, for any activities that are directly linked to their studies. And anyone that's in full-time education as well. So do bear those restrictions in mind. And also anybody that doesn't live within the UK. So we do have a couple of international members. So unfortunately, those members are unable to apply. And those who have recently graduated from an undergraduate course. So if you have graduated within the last 12 months, you won't be able to apply to this particular programme. In terms of activity that can be supported, some examples of this could be, the fund is designed to support professional development of your artistic career, particularly if your artistic practice has been affected by the pandemic. So the bursary programme could support you by offering time, space, or money to help stabilise your practice and enable it to thrive in the future. And this could be to develop new skills, for example, attending various training courses, and that can be within the visual arts field or in other industries that have a direct link to your practice. It might include mentoring or coaching or working with other arts professionals within the visual arts. And it can also include networking opportunities, working with other artists or galleries, organisations or collectives. And it can also include periods of R&D to experiment with new ways of working, for example. And you can also apply for things like national travel to visit conferences, biennials, exhibitions, or any kind of location-specific events that might be happening. And for market development, audience development, you might want to kind of have time to redevelop your portfolio. And obviously we are still continuing very much to work online. So you might want to apply for an element of website development, for example, to present your work and showcase it. As well as other kind of business development tools or consultations with experts within the visual arts or beyond. I think the important element to remember is that this is very much about your personal professional development that's related to your artistic practice. and it's not for project funding. So that is quite, it's something important to bear in mind, because it's not about developing a project. You might want to do, for example, a period of R&D, or experimenting with new techniques, or exploring new audiences that might inform a new project, but it's not specifically to support a project. So we wouldn't, for example, look for audience engagement or public engagement, or we can't support things like creating new work and stuff. So just to carry on, I did mention about element of hardship funding. So we can't, we can support things like studio or workshop rents, or outgoings such as mortgages, as well as lost income due to cancelled contracts for future work. But this can only form an element of a wider professional development proposal. And I'll run through some of the activities we can't support later on. And we can also support any national travel, accommodation, or subsistence associated with your professional development proposal, and also contribute to caring costs or any access needs directly related to the activity that you're proposing. And of course, reasonable fees for your own time, of which we very much encourage best practice. And we would encourage you to use, log into your account, your AN account, to make use of the artists pay tools that we offer. So some examples of things we don't support are materials and equipment, earnings and other economic hardships, or goods and services, or making new or completing unfinished work, unless they can form an element of your application, but no more than 50% of your requested sum of funds. So if you are applying for any of these, do take that into consideration when thinking about your budget, because you won't be able to apply for more than 50% of your total ask. Other examples of things that we can't support is any activity that is dependent on any unsecured funding. So if your proposed bursary activity can't happen because you're waiting for other sources of funding to be confirmed, or if those sources aren't successful, for example, those applications we can't support. We're also, at this moment in time, due to the pandemic, we're not supporting international travel either, because of the kind of ongoing complications of international travel. So we want to make sure we support activities that are more likely to happen and at less risk of cancellation. Of course, we are unable to support higher education fees, or any associated cost, things related to your studies. And any activities proposed must comply with the government guidelines for COVID-19 at that moment in time. Obviously, we respect the fact that you're making a decision at this moment in time, and your activities might happen sometime next year, and guidelines might change. We will deal with those kind of bespoke circumstances at the time, and our team will be able to support any significant changes that might arise due to evolving guidelines for the pandemic. So I'm now just going to run through the application form and the kinds of information that you need to provide. What we've tried to do is keep the form fairly simple, and we haven't asked for huge amounts of text. So it's fairly short and succinct, the application form, which some people do struggle to fit things within the word count, but we wanted to make it simple and concise as possible, so that we can kind of encourage you to make an application and that it's less daunting, hopefully, in that sense. So first and foremost, you'll be asked for your contact details and the area of visual arts in which you practice. And then we'll ask you about your creative practice. So we'll ask you to provide a short statement about your proposed bursary and what you want to do. So as an artist or a creative practitioner, you'll have your continuous practice. But when you're applying for a grant or writing a project proposal, you will need to talk about a specific chapter which has a start and an end, both in terms of the activities planned and the time frame in which it will take place. So bear that in mind when making your application. So yeah, a short snapshot sentence about what you want to apply for, and the panel will use this when, bear in mind we will be kind of reviewing hundreds of applications. So this sentence is fundamental in us getting a quick understanding of what your application and your proposal entails. And then we'll ask you for an outline of your artistic practice. And here you can kind of demonstrate, this is your shop window and a bit of an elevator pitch on what you want somebody to see and understand about your practice. So explain about your artistic ideas, your medium, the context in which you work, whether you collaborate with others, your achievements today, and what you are currently working on. And then we'll ask you about your bursary activities and what you propose to do. So what's very important here is to be very concise and clear about the different elements of your proposal. And I would say that some of the stronger proposals cover different elements of professional development that might support your practice as a whole. So think of it as a kind of designing a bespoke package for yourself of professional development activities that might support you in different ways. And then we'll also ask you about why these particular activities are important to you at this particular moment in your artistic practice, and how it will make an impact, a positive impact on you and your work, both in the short and the longer term. And what kind of, this will be your opportunity to explain what kind of opportunities it will create for you, and what you envisage will be the positive benefits. So some of the kind of questions you want to ask yourself when thinking about the bursary activities and describing them in the application is what you want to do, why you want to do it, why you want to do it now, why the project is important, and how the project relates back to your practice and your work and what you want to achieve in the future. I've mentioned a few times already, but you'll be asked to state the amount that you wish to apply for. And often people ask, oh, what is a good amount? Or what is the amount that I should ask for that is most likely to be successful? And the answer is that there isn't a a good amount. I think the most important thing is to justify what you are asking for, to make it clear in your application, the different elements, and to have a clear and concise budget that's broken down, and that the panel can see that you've considered relevant, appropriate, and competitive rates for the things that you're budgeting for. And also there is the opportunity for disabled applicants or those requiring additional access costs to apply for up to £500 in addition to the bursary amount that you're requesting. And you'll be asked to list the details of that as well. For income, so this section isn't mandatory, but if you will be supplementing the budget with other sources of funding, which might be your own funds, other applications you've applied for example, or any other in-kind support, then this is your opportunity to clarify that. And you can also use your AN bursary as match funding to seek other funding. But obviously bear in mind that kind of we aren't able to support any applications that are dependent on other secured funding. So whilst we can form match funding to other projects, we can't support projects that work the other way around, so that are dependent on other unsecured sources of funding. Expenditure. So if you've applied for our bursaries before, this section is a little different than usual. So this time round we have included individual boxes related to materials, travel, accommodation, subsistence, fees, courses, events and tickets, carrying costs, and also a box for any other costs not related to those things. And you'll be asked to provide an itemized breakdown of your budget within these different boxes. So you don't have to use all the boxes, and if something isn't relevant to you, then please just state not applicable. But do kind of make it a clear list of each of the items that you're requesting funding for within these categories. And make sure that your expenditure budget totals the amount that you're applying for. So if you're asking for 500, then your budget must total 500 at the end. And of course, again, AN's committed to ensuring artists are paid fairly, so do make use of the tools that are available to you as a member. You'll be asked for details about your achievements and experience. So we aren't asking for a CV, so you won't be able to attach a CV. Instead, we are asking for you to list your different achievements and experiences in different category boxes. So one is for your exhibitions, for solo and group shows. Any other key achievements that support your application, which might include things like prizes and awards, publications, any residencies that you've done or presentations, for example, any relevant work experience outside of your artistic practice. So for example, you might have been a curator for other projects, for example. Any relevant education history, as well as an opportunity to provide a link to your website or an online portfolio. So if any of these categories you don't have any particular achievements or experience to evidence, then you just state not applicable. You'll then be asked to provide your to complete an equal opportunities monitoring form. So AN's committed to representing the diversity of artists and contemporary visual artists and their practice across our programs. So our employment and delivery of our services, we kind of seek to ensure equality of opportunity. So the information provided in this section of your application will be separated out and anonymized, so it doesn't form part of the selection process. And then, so a bit about, after you submitted the application. So the decision meetings will be held in December 2021. And then there'll be a panel consisting of a combination of AN staff, members from our Artists Council, as well as artists. So we can operate this kind of peer panel model. And the bursaries will be awarded at their discretion. So all applicants will be notified of the outcome by January 2022. So we endeavour to support a range of applications from across all areas of the visual arts, and a range of applications from across the UK as well. And of course, we take into consideration diversity and inclusion. So after you've applied, successful applications will be sent their bursary agreement and terms and conditions via email. So do look out for that by email. And if you are successful, you'll be asked to complete a bursary acceptance form by a certain deadline, and that will be your opportunity to provide your bank detail, your UK bank details as well. And you'll be expected to complete your bursary activities by December 2022, after which you will be required to complete an activity report form by early January 2023. And then that kind of forms the end of the bursary process. But all applicants, whether successful or unsuccessful, will be notified by January next year. If you do need additional support with your application, the best way to contact the AN team is via email at bursaries@an.co.uk. And there is also a phone line available for those that need that. And if you have any kind of bespoke access support requirements during the application process, you can discuss that with our team as well via email. So send your requests and questions through that way. And we can also provide alternative formats to those that need as well. So to conclude, I think a couple of my final tips would be to keep the application form and the proposal simple and be very clear and concise. Plan your time. You have until the 14th of October to submit an application. The deadline is 12 noon. And also factor in time for us to make a decision when you want to start your activity, when you envisage completing the activity, and the final activity report form evaluation process as well. So do plan your timeline right up until the full evaluation. The best advice is always to read the guidance. Everything you need will be in that guidance. Obviously, if you still have any questions or concerns, then contact us by email. And do keep a check on the word counts, because you won't be able to submit the form if your text isn't within the word count. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope this presentation was useful to kind of help elaborate on the guidance that we've shared on our website. But yeah, if you have any further questions, do contact us. Otherwise, good luck with your application. Thank you.